Welcome back, everybody, to the Prodigal Podcast. I am your host, Nick Stomphauser. I'm your very excited host because we've got one heck of an episode coming toward you today, episode 5 with Mr. Matthew Murdoch. This is the only uncensored, unhinged, unfiltered, unchained podcast on the belief and existence of God that you'll find on the internet. I don't hold back, and I encourage you not to hold back either, because this is real stuff. This is what really matters. What happens the moment after you close your eyes for the last time, what you think happens, determines how you live every second of your life up until that point. It's a fact, whether or not you realize it. And so I talk about that because it matters to me. I'm making a movie about it. It's called The Prodigal, and I'm really excited to announce that I've just begun principal photography. For those non-filmmakers out there, principal photography means we've actually pressed record. We've actually started making the movie instead of talking about making the movie, which is huge, and it's terrifying. It's the scariest thing that I've done. And this podcast is where you're going to hear a bit about that. Now, the film is more the experiential side of things, me jumping out of planes and climbing up mountains and going into churches and doing all the stuff to try and get that road to Damascus Epiphany. But this podcast is the intellectual side of things, because it's very hard to put the intellectual side of things on screen without making it incredibly boring. But listening to it, engaging with it, the dialectic is unendingly entertaining for me and for a lot of people out there as well, which is why you're here. Or it's just because you just love hearing me talk. This episode, we're doing an interview with a gentleman named Matthew Murdoch. He reached out to me via email. I read a bit of his email in the last episode, The Madman. Highly encourage it. It was one of my favorite episodes to record. But it has been surpassed by this episode. This episode, it was so much fun to talk with this guy. I now consider him my brother. Just a tiny bit of background before we jump into my interview with him. We both went on a podcast on YouTube called Catholic Verses with our mutual friend David Ross. We both went on different points, and he heard my interview with him, and he resonated so strongly with the struggles that I was going through that he shot me an email, and we kind of hit it off there. And now we jumped on my podcast to really just dig into the experiential side of trying to get to truth and how difficult it is to get to truth and the emotional blockages that occur, the arrogance, the bias, the fear, and the confusion that goes into just marching along the journey of finding truth. He's a great guy. I now consider him a very close friend. Looking forward to talking with him as I continue on this journey. And I'm so excited to bring to you my interview with Matthew Murdoch. We did it, Matthew.
Here we are.
We did it. So thank you for coming on the podcast after weeks of emailing and I'd say about a week of emailing and a week of us trying to figure out these damn tech problems.
Yeah. My pleasure, man. I'm really excited. This is great.
So, God be willing that we don't have any further technical issues. On episode 4, which I'm not sure if you've heard yet, but I read a bit of your email that you sent me, and it's a part of your story that you've shared on our mutual friend David's podcast. And I'd love for you to try and, if you can, bring the audience up to speed on who you are and your backstory, so that they're on the same page as I am.
Okay. Well, I was raised Catholic, but my family was not like hardcore Catholic. We didn't talk about it outside of church, but we were there every Sunday. Mm-hmm. We were just there, but we didn't really pray or do any of that type of stuff. But
What flavor of Catholic? Were you Byzantine Catholic, Roman Catholic?
Roman, I believe.
Okay.
See, and all the Catholic distinctives and all that stuff, we never really talked about it. I was catechized, had my first communion, I was confirmed, but I didn't really know any of the Catholic dogmas until recently, actually, when I started coming back into the faith. So basically, I had like a generic idea of who God was. I figured that he was there, but I didn't think about it much. I didn't put a lot of thought into it. Just figured that, he's there. And the more, growing up, getting into drugs and sex, drugs, and rock and roll, I just felt like he was probably angry with me. So I just wanted to rebel against this nebulous figure in my head type of thing. Anyway, so I kind of wandered away from that into even the point of not believing. I got into some occult stuff because I was into like satanic speed metal. I've heard you like make fun of people who like death metal and stuff. And that's so funny to me because I was totally like, you're like, there's like 6 people out there who like that. I'm like, I'm one of those guys. I was in the death metal band and all the satanic stuff that goes along with that. But it kind of turns out just to be a joke. Like those people really don't believe in it. But
right.
But I kind of started out believing in it, but then it just kind of turned into a joke as well. So. And anyways, so a lot of ins and outs about that we can talk about. But like I said, my story is so convoluted, it would take forever to get into all that. But so I totally walked away from it. I wound up totally destroying my life through my drug addiction. And I hated Christianity. I hated Christians and religion and all of that stuff. And I would toy with people and try and talk them out of their faith and stuff just for fun.
Real quick before, because I'm going to be asking a bunch of questions here. Do you have any questions that are off limits?
No.
Okay.
Bring it on, brother.
Okay.
And I'll be as honest as I can because a lot of these conversations, and I need to hear it because I'm skeptical right now. I'm fighting to hold on to my faith at all costs at the moment because I almost fell off completely just not too long ago. So I want to examine all the hard stuff, and I'm telling you, I will answer you. You can ask anything, and I'm game for that, because it's all. I'm trying to get to the bottom of it, just like you are. So.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I just want to make sure because I can be a bit of a jackhammer with this, and I didn't want you, while we're live.
Hammer away, dude.
Fantastic.
Hammer away, and I'm kind of a rambler, so if I start going off, you can just rein me back in because I'll just. Like I said, I did a lot of drugs, so my brain don't work right. And sometimes I just start going off on rabbit trails. And I just like when I was on David's podcast, I don't know if you listened to my first episode. He just lets me talk for like an hour, dude. And I'm just like, why did you do that?
That poor guy.
I listened to it myself. I sound like such an idiot, man. I'm just like, why did you just keep letting me talk like that?
Well, he's very kind, but he does chop stuff down.
He does.
Yeah, we'll have to get into how we met each other in David's podcast and whatnot. But you were in the debauchery, you had all the sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Yes.
And it's interesting that you were saying that you tried to rock the Christian's faith a little bit because that's definitely what I did too. Like as when I first became an atheist, it's fun to just like go up and shake their snow globe.
Yeah.
Okay, so take us from there. Then what happens?
Okay, so I'm completely destroyed. My life is ruined. I'm probably, I don't even know how old. In my mid-20s at this point.
Now, what do you mean your life is ruined? Are you homeless? Are you strung out? What's going on?
I'm strung out. Methamphetamine and intravenous user. Just like burned all my bridges and just wound up. I was homeless and. I was staying at a homeless shelter and like my dad dropped me off over there and I was like looking around at all like the homeless people. I'm like, look at all these bums, these disgusting people, and thought I was better than everybody else and wound up having to stay there because I seriously had nowhere else to go. Then I found out, I am just like all these guys and they all had a story to tell too. So that was a big eye-opening experience for me. But I felt just this pit in my chest, just I wanted to just kill myself. I was very suicidal, but too cowardly to actually do it. Like I just wanted to go do a big shot of dope and just die that way because that's like probably the most chicken shit way you possibly could do it. Like I was too scared to put a gun in my mouth and pull the trigger or hang myself or something. But I would I wanted to die. My life was meaningless. I was just totally broken down. And
at this point, did you have a sense of, because I know that throughout this whole journey, I've still had like the programming of Catholicism in my head that makes me feel like, that God's still watching me, even if I didn't intellectually assent to it. It's still like, something's there, at least habitually. Did you have that in your darkest times too?
Absolutely. Like I still felt as though I was rebelling against somebody, like a kid rebelling against their parents. Like, you don't love me, so I'm going to do this and watch this, and I'm going to, very childish kind of motives inside. But yes, and I felt condemned. Like you've talked about feeling afraid of hell and stuff. I've always felt like, well, I'm going to hell anyways. I better, enjoy this while I can, or make friends with, the darkness, make friends with the evil spirits. That's kind of part of being part of the in the occultist stuff, like just trying to, I don't know, it was pretty childish and stupid, but trying to just rebel and get what I could get out of it. Because I always kind of felt, even when I was a child, because I had some things happen to me and certain things where I felt dirty and I felt condemned anyway. So that's kind of led to me rebelling, and I just enjoyed being bad.
Oh, for sure. I mean, well, there's so much fun about it.
It was fun.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun doing it. I played in bands and did all that stuff. And we weren't really that successful, but, for a local, little local small town, we were cool guys, and we had a little tiny bit of fame,
Well, in the words of St. Augustine, he said, Lord, make me chaste, but not yet.
Yeah, not yet. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Mm-hmm. So I definitely felt that. And I knew I needed something. So I started, before that, I was looking into Taoism, Buddhism.
Yep.
And I wanted something. I needed something. And I just knew that it was not Christianity. I hated Christianity. It was stupid. It's like anything but that. So I'm rolling around, coming off of drugs in this nasty homeless shelter. And I have my Taoist reading material and the Buddhist thing and a Bible with me. And I'm just tossing and turning. I'm trying to get into the Taoist philosophy and all of these things, and it was just emptiness to me. It just did nothing for me. I'm like, this is stupid. Come on, please be something here.
Yeah, Buddhism sucks.
But yeah, it does, man. It's just, I don't know. There's nothing there.
No,
and I was desperately trying to trick myself even into believing something kind of,
Yeah.
As long as it wasn't Christianity, but I still had that Bible there, like you said, like that programmed deal, like in the back of my mind. I don't know why I still had it, And I realized I needed to get into a program because this homeless shelter deal wasn't working out for me. And so I went up to the front desk and asked the people, I need to get into a rehab. Is there any place around here that can help? And they're like, oh, well, you just happen to be next door to a rehab. And it's called the Reno Sparks Gospel Mission. I'm like, no.
Oh, no.
Gospel Mission. So I'm just like, well, I had no choice, because it's like your time runs out at the shelter, and then it's just, I'm on the street again, and I was too pampered. I came from a upper middle class family, so the whole bum street life junkie stuff didn't suit me very well. Once I ran out of people to take advantage of, I guess.
Right.
And so I go to the Gospel Mission. I'm skeptical. I'm just like, I ain't gonna believe in this stuff. Like looking down my nose at everybody there. But then after I'm there for a few weeks, I just was like, okay, God, if you're there, do X, Y, and Z, and I'll believe in you. And then
the amount of times that I have said that.
Yeah. And the stupid, ridiculous, selfish prayer that I just threw out there, it happened. I can't even remember what it was. I really can't. And so I'm like, oh, coincidence.
Same.
Like, oh, that's a coincidence. And so then I did it 2 more times, and then it happened. And then I'm like, okay. And in this Gospel Mission place, you're going to chapel like 5 days a week.
Right.
Every morning you wake up at 5 a.m. and you're going hearing some sermon from some local pastor. And then, so anyways, on one of those deals, the guy does the altar call. You know all about that. Does anyone want to receive Jesus?
Oh yeah. Yep.
In their heart? And something inside me, I start crying. I feel like a wave of heat come over me. Like I just felt hot. Like I just start sweating, you know, and just crying. And I raised my hand and everyone started praying on me and praying over me and stuff. And then, you know, then I kind of became a Christian and reading the Bible and all that stuff. And I was like, well, I guess I believe this now. And yeah, so that's where I got to that point. But then after that, you know, my story gets very convoluted because after that, you know, I fell back out of it, became pretty much an atheist again, went back to drugs like within a year and had some crazy stuff happen. I don't know if you want me to go into that or what. I don't want to start going off and getting too far into it. So I'll let you ask some more questions if you want.
Yeah, sure. So when you became an atheist, was this an intellectual atheism, kind of like what you've been exploring now? I know you're Catholic now, but you know, where you've read books or you've listened to debates or whatever it is, and you're like, man, this just doesn't make sense? Or was it an atheism as like an apathy?
Pretty much apathy. I just quit thinking about it. And I, you know, like I said, I kind of went back to doing drugs. I got married to some lady and it was like a horrible marriage and everything fell apart. And it was an emotional thing because now I remember I got married to this girl that I was doing drugs with, and then we both got clean and both came to Jesus and all that type of stuff. And then I was trying my hardest to be a good boy, dude, like not cussing, drinking, smoking, all that. I still smoke cigarettes at the time, but you know what I mean? Like all the churchy stuff. Like I was trying to be church guy, and my life still totally sucked. My ex-wife, you know, was not cool, you know, like running around on me. And I remember feeling kind of cheated, like, because the only reason I got married is because we were going to this church and the pastor's like, "Are you two married?" We're like, "No." And then they're like, "Well, you better get married now or you know, don't come back." So we're like, "Oh gosh, that's God talking to us through this." That's how I thought. I was like, "Oh, that's the voice of God speaking through this pastor." So we rushed off and got married. It was a freaking horrible mistake. And I just remember thinking, like, why am I trying? I'm trying so hard.
Right.
And my life sucks. And I didn't understand, you know, I know all the answers, the Sunday school answers for that now, but at the time I didn't.
Well, so what are the answers now that you think they are? Well,
that, you know, as a Christian, are you guaranteed a fun, happy life?
Oh, right.
No, but you think, oh, I'm doing all the right things. How come God's not blessing me? I really thought like all the blessings were just going to start raining down on me, like the Pentecostal guys say. You know, you just have faith, and you know, I thought, oh, I'm going to be driving a nice car. Yeah. Everything's going to start working out for me. God's going to be happy with me. But no, man, everything sucked. So I'm just like, you know, that just slowly drifted away and felt kind of robbed in that way.
So how many years ago was that stage?
That was about 10 years ago.
Okay, so 10 years ago you had that one. I'm assuming then you divorced with this lady. What happened between then and now?
Okay, so I went back to drugs, wound up back in the gospel mission, you know, years later. And I woke up in jail and I was just like a total mess. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm like supposed to be a Christian or something, right? Someone get me a Bible. And I'm like screaming at the jailers, like, get me a Bible. And it took them like 2 weeks to get me a Bible for whatever reason. I guess they're in high demand in jail or something. I don't know. A lot of people I gotta get out of here. But anyways, so I got a hold of the Bible and I just started devouring it. I'm like, holy crap, I'm supposed to be a Christian. What have I been doing? I've been, you know, just right back to drugs, sex, women, all that stuff. I was just that same guy all over again before I even had that whole trip to begin with. So I went and put myself back in the mission after I got out of jail. And then, you know, I had a kid. My kid was taken away from me because of my drugs, and I just felt like a total piece of crap. And so I'm back in the mission, and the same type of thing happens again. I bail out, get with this, my daughter now's mom, who I'm not with anymore, but I got my daughter back, and things are good now in that aspect. And but I went back to drugs with her mom in some small town in the middle of nowhere, go on like this long runner. And that whole time, like, I feel this weight on me, like, you are going to hell. You've chosen your path. you are condemned. And then I to the point where I was just running into these churches. I'm just totally annihilated on drugs, just running into there, grabbing some Christians by the shoulders. I need help,
Yeah.
I'm going to hell. I'm living in sin. Please help me. And they were also, I'm sure they were nice, but they were so stupid. And they were just like, oh, you ain't going to hell, son. You're just fine. I'm like, you don't understand what I'm dealing with. Like, I'm telling you, like the fear, it was, but I didn't stop what I was doing. But the fear was the same as if someone was just, was dangling you over a cliff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that type of fear.
Sure.
And
that's really powerful.
Yes.
So, you have this, okay, so that's really interesting. So you have this fear of hell, and it doesn't stop you from doing the drugs and doing this stuff. Why is that?
I don't know, man. I just felt like, honestly, I couldn't change. I felt like it was just like.
Is it because you couldn't, or because you didn't think you deserved to?
See, I couldn't answer that. I don't know. I would literally, I have a scar in my arm that I carved into it that says no.
Oh my God.
Xing, and I put an X mark on my vein so that the next morning when I woke up, I would remember that I didn't want to shoot up anymore. And my kids see that mark, they're like, what does that say? I'm just like, don't worry about it. I can't tell you.
I'll tell you later.
I'll tell you later. Hopefully never. But then the next day I'm shooting up drugs, and then I notice on my arm, I'm like, what the hell is that? I'm like, oh yeah. I gave myself a little Post-it note in my flesh, and it still didn't work, It's
God.
like I was that far gone, man. Like it just was second nature. I could not, it just was who I was. And no matter how much I cried, and I remember just screaming out to God, and I'd just be punching myself in the face and just trying to hurting myself, doing all that type of stupid stuff. And people remembered seeing me do it, and I didn't know that they're like, oh, we saw you were outside in the car and you were just beating the shit out of yourself. I'm like, really? Like, it's just sad,
Yeah.
But and I just felt like I was stuck, and I'm just like, oh, I guess I just sold my soul or something. I can't get out of this. I just felt trapped, and all these Christian people that I was going to, like, they gave me no help, no, not at all.
Not at all. Most of them are very unequipped. That's the problem. Is there's 99% of the Christians or the Catholics that you run into are unequipped. I have 2 questions before we move forward with your story.
Okay, go ahead.
And I hope I remember both of them. Question number 1: that fear of hell, and that knowledge that there is a God in the midst of your suffering, was that? I know it's hard to answer, but do you think that was programming? Was that habit because of how you were raised, or was that a fear based on a legitimate response to something that you believe or believed was there?
Well, I think that it's really not explainable, because I didn't really want to feel that way. I know that, and I know that I'm very good at justifying myself, and like when I was doing drugs and all that stuff for years, I felt fine about it. It was great. It was all good. I was just partying it up. But for that period of time, just that fear of hell, I don't know what happened, because I was pretty terrible for a lot of years before that, and I didn't really have much of a conscience over it. And I was just like, it was more like, oh, I'm going to hell anyway. Hell, might as well party. But it wasn't like I actually feared an actual place of actual damnation and all that, whatever that fear was. I never experienced anything like it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get rid of it. Like I was doing lots of drugs, and I'd be distracted for a little while, but then it would just come back, and I was just like, oh. And this is over about a period of a year, this whole long thing. So I don't know, but could it be the programming? It could be. I don't know.
It's almost impossible. I'm willing to
admit that it could be.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to answer, but I have to ask. And then question number 2 is, I know that with my own personal addictions and compulsions that I've dealt with, it's really easy for me to tell myself that I'm stuck, that I'm powerless, and so on. So I want to challenge you on that. Would you say that you were legitimately powerless, or do you feel like you had even 0.5% of choice in the matter?
Well, I mean, did I get up and choose to go and buy drugs and stick it to my arm? Yeah, it was me doing it.
Well, I mean, there's a difference between it being your meat suit, shoving the needle in your arm, and you just, nobody really chooses to eat. They're hungry, and so they eat, Yeah.
But see, that's great that you just brought that. Okay, so to me, doing that shot of meth was the urge. And I remember trying to explain this to someone. My urge to do drugs was the urge to eat.
Yep. Okay.
It was the same. It was the same type of feeling.
Yeah, that primal, visceral.
Yeah.
You just
like it's just gonna happen. Like
right.
It's something that you know. So yeah, I remember feeling like that. But that's after you get into it pretty deep.
How were you introduced to drugs?
As a kid, man, like I said, I grew up in a real straight-laced Catholic family. My parents never did drugs. Didn't, they drank, but not like any big deal. But I just really, it was the influence from music and things I listened to. My idols as a kid were like Axl Rose and Guns N' Roses, and I was into heavy metal and all that stuff. And all those guys were partiers, drug addicts, and I wanted to be like that when I grew up, and that's exactly what I did. I remember when I was a little kid thinking that, like, I can't wait till I get older and I can go and party and do all that stuff, Rebellious, because my parents were so opposite of that. I wanted to go as far away from the way they were raising me as I could, I guess.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Which is totally stupid. I was a complete idiot. Like, I have no good excuse.
Well,
except that I was influenced by all that stuff.
I get it, but there's also... I think there's an obligation on the parents that if you're going to make your kids safe, you also have to make them competent. Because if you just make them safe, then they will swing the other way. But if you make them safe and competent, then they'll realize why you're doing what you're doing, and they won't swing so far. I'm grateful to have parents that have made me safe and competent, where my stupid decisions still haven't been life-altering. I haven't... luckily I haven't ended up in a field with farmers praying over me, which I really want to get to in your story, because that was awesome.
That's coming up. That's like the next part.
Great. Okay, let's jump into it. Okay.
So I'm going to this church and that church, begging people to help me. They're like, no, you're fine. And then I was just like, okay, there's no help. I'm done. I'm dead. I might as well. I'm a dead man walking. I'm going to go to hell. Who cares? So I'm in the library because I lost my job, and I'm getting my unemployment because I didn't have a computer or anything. So you had to go there and to file your unemployment. And then some random dude in there just is talking to the librarian and says some Bible verse. And I just jump up out of my seat, grab him by the shoulders. I was like, I need help. He's like, are you on drugs? And I said, yes. Right in front of everyone, just making a scene in this little town. And this is like a little hick town. It's called Bishop, California, in the middle of nowhere. So everyone's like, what the hell? And he's like, okay, we're having a little Bible study, just a few guys. And it's at 7:00, so show up. So I was like, fine. So I show up and totally disrupt these guys, some farmer guys, and they're just, doing their little Bible study. You ever seen those little scripture Bible studies? They have like a little study pamphlet, and they go through, okay, well, what does this verse say to you? Well, I think, that type of thing. God, yeah. And they've never seen, and they've never seen anyone like me coming in there, and I'm just like, blah, 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 I'm going to hell, I'm this and that, just freaking out. And then they just stop everything they're doing. They're so cool, and they prayed over me and stuff. And one of the guys was like, God's going to deliver you tonight. And I was like, no, he's not. Like, yeah, right. I have a bag of dope sitting at home. I'm going to go and do that.
Yep.
And tomorrow's going to be the same as yesterday, and repeat, death, hell, blackness, darkness, swallow me up. I don't fucking care anymore. That's where I was at. Mm-hmm. So, and then one of the other old guys is like, hey, son, if you need me, you call me. I don't care what time it is. I don't care what it is. You call me. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to call you, stranger, weird guy that I just met. What I mean?
Farmer Rick.
Yeah, Farmer Bill in your bib overalls. I'm going to give you a call, buddy. We're going to hang out. But I went back to the place where I was staying and had the drugs out, had everything ready to go, and I just am pacing back and forth, and I just couldn't touch it. I'm like, what is going on? And I just am getting the anxiety, and so then I pick up old Farmer Bill's phone number, and I call him. It's probably 11 or 12 at night, call him. I was like, hey, you told me I could call you. I'm that guy, you know? And so he's like, I'll be right there. Where are you at? He comes over, comes and picks me up. We drive out into like a little field, and I give him all my drugs, give him all of that stuff. And he's just like looking at like, what the hell, like needles and pipes and just a bunch of crystal meth, you know, and he dumps it out. And he said a prayer with me. And from that moment on, I never have had, and that was 7-8 years ago now, I haven't had one craving, not even a craving, not even a thought, not even a tiny little desire to do meth ever since that night. Totally transformed.
Damn.
I was also, you know, a liar and a thief and all of these things. Even when I'd try and get off the drugs, I was still kind of crappy guy like that. And all of that went away as well overnight. So then I just got my stuff together. I had to leave my baby's mama out there, you know, because she was still doing drugs, and our kid was in Carson City with my parents because she was taken away from us. And I was like, dude, I got to go back there and take care of my kid. I can't be with you anymore. I got to leave. So that's what I did. And
so I want to dig in a little bit to that transformation. So typically in the religious viewpoint, there's free will, right? But it'll say in the Bible things like Pharaoh's heart was hardened by God, and such that he followed them into the Red Sea, and then he was swallowed up. And so that kind of always bothered me, because it was like, well, if we're supposed to have free will, then why is God buggering around with our hearts and such that we can be manipulated in such a way to be a better person or a worse person? And it sounds to me like in this situation, you reached out to the farmer, and so you kind of gave it to God, and you said, you know, make this happen for me. Like, I'm powerless, please, you know, help me. And so that, you know, that wouldn't be the removal of free will. You just kind of gave him permission to make that change. Would that sound like it?
Yes.
Okay. So that to me is remarkable, that you could go from without rehab, completely addicted to, you know, this isn't marijuana, right? This is chemically addictive substances, cold turkey to nothing.
Yep.
That blows my mind.
And brother, and see, this is what I go back to when I start doubting. I get into all this theological stuff, and it's so doubtful, the inerrancy of the Bible. I see errors in it. I'm not stupid. I go to all of these different pastors and from all these years, and I try to get answers, and you have to do mental gymnastics and backflips to try and wiggle your way out of these weird inconsistencies and what they talk about. But I cannot deny what happened to me. And I was trying to tell, I was kind of debating an atheist guy about this, and he just kind of wrote it off as, oh, it's just a psychological experience. That could happen to anyone for anything, you know, which is true. I can't argue. Yeah, sure. A guy could go to Mormonism and say the same thing. Oh, I quit drinking ever since I became a Mormon. Yeah. But I know in my life that ever since I was 12 years old, when I first tried methamphetamine, I've jonesed for it and craved it ever since. Even and I went for periods of time when I'd get clean and I'd get a job, or even when I was a kid, you know, I'd go, you know, a few months without doing it and stuff. But in the back of my mind, brother, that thought was never gone.
Well, let me ask you this:
that fantasy, you know, it's like a fantasy, like you're looking at good-looking women, or you're thinking about good-looking women. You can relate to that, right?
For sure.
It was just like that in the back of the mind, that I could not get away from it. And then overnight, that night, bam! I haven't even had a craving, because if I had a craving, brother, I would do it. I've never been strong enough to stand up against those cravings, because I would just start thinking about it, and then it's like, oh, I just get oh gosh, and then I'd be running out and going and getting a bag of dope, you know. I'd make it however long, a couple weeks, a couple months, or whatever, so clean, and then dude. Now,
when you say dope, you mean meth, right? Not heroin.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't like heroin. Wasn't my gig. I tried it though.
Okay, so with, you know, you're talking to somebody who only knows a little bit about how this stuff works in the brain. Is it dopaminergic? Does it work on the reward center?
Yes, it does.
Interesting. That's really important, because my skeptic brain was like, oh, if it doesn't work on that part of the brain, then you can actually have a decision to stop doing it.
See, you're saying exactly what I was trying to say to the atheist guy, what he didn't get, because, okay, when you're doing these drugs, you form neural passageways, and you actually form these new receptor sites in your brain that crave these things.
Yeah,
your body
absolutely.
will quit. You know how all that works,
Well, yeah,
right?
it's the same thing as a porn addiction. It's the exact same thing.
It's a hardwiring in your brain. The chemical makeup of your brain is changed. That's why you have cravings. That's why when you crave nicotine, because your body has actually formed different pathways in your brain, which is a physical thing that you can observe under a microscope. You can look in an MRI machine and see these things. They can see correlations there. So that means a physical thing, my brain chemistry and brain map that I've formed with over 20 years of doing this, right?
So do you want to hear my last ditch effort to reason this away?
Yeah, go for it. Don't ruin me, dude. Please. No, I was kidding. Don't do it. That's all I got. No, bring it. I'm sorry.
So right now, research with psilocybin has shown an 85% cessation rate with smoking. With one dose of psilocybin, you can absolutely remove the use of cigarettes completely, which I'm sure you know cigarette smoking is really tough to quit. And that like Chantix and all these different prescriptions and stuff, they have like success rate of like 15%, 17%. Yeah. So like an 85% success rate is insane. So my last ditch effort to explain this away would be to say that you had a psychedelic type ego death experience that does what psilocybin does, and the only way that would be substantiated is if you, when that guy prayed over you, can report any sort of ego death or psychedelia in your experience. Or was it pretty mundane?
It was totally mundane.
Oh, God.
I didn't think it was going to do anything. I just woke up the next morning and I was different. Seriously, it was just like, okay, like I just dumped out all my dope. Great. Now I'm going to have to, it wasn't like he touched me and zapped me and like the Pentecostal guys and I started flopping on the floor or anything like that. Right, it was just a very mundane thing, and I didn't really even believe it as it was happening.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. So you probably you yourself were amazed as it was happening. Like, wow, I can't believe I'm not hungry right now. Yeah,
it made no sense. And then to just change my life and leave that place where I was, with my girlfriend at the time, and I just had like my perfect drug addict set up to where I was just about to get 99 weeks of unemployment where I can just party and get high and have a steady check coming in every week. That's like a drug addict's dream,
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I was leaving behind things that I was striving for as well. Like I just had got that situation. So I don't know, man.
That's crazy.
But yeah,
I have to ask, like, what does that prove? So you have, I always hide behind the idea that these experiences are non-transferable, right? What's proof for you isn't proof for me because it didn't happen to me. It happened to you. And, and that is, I think it's fair, but it's a little bit cowardly because I don't think you're a pathological liar, right?
Yeah.
And so,
well, this is the thing. Even if I was, brother, like you could come into my life, and that's why in my little test case, my little anecdotal life, my little experience I shared with you, it's testable. You can see police reports, hospital records,
for sure,
and everything of a whole life over 20 years. All of the counseling, because I've been to probably 9 rehabs. I've been to counseling for drug center since I was before I was even 15 years old. I started my drug treatment. So you can see this whole life of drug, all of the proof that I was actually a drug addict, and talk to people who knew me in my life then and people who knew me in my life now, my parents, everyone. None of them can believe the overnight change.
Yeah.
It's like, but my parents are even like, oh, well, I'm glad you found something that works for you. It's like, no, you don't understand, dude. You don't understand it, But peck away at that, man, because I want to know, because the other atheist guy's like, oh, well, Muslims quit drinking, so why do you think it was God and all of this stuff? But I'm saying, regardless of who the God is who helped me, which I say it's Jesus, because he's the one that was there. He's the only one. I reached out to all these other gods, and Jesus is the only one that showed up. He's the one that showed up for me when I was at the mission. And that's why I believe in him, but then after that happened, and Farmer Bill, that's not his real name. His name is Dan. I don't want to make fun of him just in case he ever hears it. But, old Farmer Dan. So I just tag along with him for the next couple weeks. Like I'm with him. Like I have to abandon ship all my friends, everything. I didn't want to see anyone. So he lets me tag along with him, just takes me in as a family member pretty much, and got me on my feet and got me the hell out of town. But so I don't know anything about Christianity. They're Protestant evangelical Christians. So I learn everything. I'm learning everything. I think that's what Christianity is their stripe of Christianity, right? But then over the last 10 years since then, or 8 years, 9 years, I've gone from one theological camp to the next, reading the Bible like crazy,
For
bro.
sure.
Like I know the Bible really well. I read it inside and out, praying, dude, everything. Like I told you, listening to thousands and thousands of hours of preaching and teaching and all this stuff. And then I would find some fatal flaw in the theology where it didn't line up with what the Bible seemed to be saying. And so then I'd go to the next guy, and then he would say, oh, yeah, they're all wrong. Those Presbyterians have it all wrong, or those evangelicals have it all wrong. It's all about Presbyterianism. I'm like, oh, yes, Calvinism.
Oh,
yeah,
dude, you play that game so
it.
much. I totally get that. I totally understand that. You just jump from because each person has this whole, I say cult, but they have this whole infrastructure built up around it to be able to say, they're all wrong, we have all the answers, only to move on to the next one that says, oh, they're all wrong, we have all the answers. And for a while, you just hungrily move from one to the next because there's this desire for truth, for resolution, for saying, oh, I have a place to put my feet. And then you finally get to a point where wait just a second, maybe nobody knows.
That's exactly where I'm at. That's where I'm at. Just like a few months ago, okay, maybe it's 6 or 7 months ago, I got to that point to where I was losing my faith altogether because I'm like, all of these places say they have the Holy Spirit. Before they start preaching the word, they say, Holy Spirit, reveal to us the truth that you have. And they're preaching stuff that I know is false because I've read it. And it's like I understand the word. Like when you're a little kid and you're listening to your first grade math teacher teach you math, you're like, they know everything. But then you get into college level math, and then you go revisit that first grade teacher and be like, wow, this guy didn't even know what the hell he was talking about.
Right.
Or, it was just like that. And it's just like one man's opinion against the next man's opinion. Where's the Holy Spirit of truth? Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. So where's the truth? If there's no truth, they can't all be contradictory and be the same Holy Spirit, because they always say, oh, God can't, there can be no contradiction in his word or anything, or else he wouldn't be true, or whatever. You've heard all that stuff. So I'm like, well, how come you say that you have the Holy Spirit teaching you how to interpret this passage, and the guy across the street says the same exact thing, and you guys are coming out with contradictory conclusions, and you're condemning each other? Well, that doesn't fly.
I want to touch on that, but before we do, I want to circle back real quick. So,
okay,
is there a withdrawal from methamphetamines like there is from heroin?
No. There's for me, I was such an extreme case that I had little mini seizures whenever I try and quit. Other times in my life, and I went to the hospital because I thought I was dying, and they told me that that's just some extreme cases of chemical dependency. It's not common for meth. It's usually you just crash out and you're extremely depressed for maybe a week, and you just can't sleep. I mean, you can't eat. All you want to do is eat and sleep, and you're just a zombie for however long.
And did you have that after the prayer with Farmer Dan? No.
Nope. I woke up the next day, and I was new.
And was that preceded by your typical usage of meth?
What do you mean?
I mean, were you already tapering down your use, or was that?
No.
Okay.
Like I said, I had a whole bag of dope, and I was already shot up before going to that thing.
What the hell am I supposed to do with that?
I don't know.
You're making it really tough for me to be an atheist.
Oh yeah, well he's like, I'm glad for you.
Oh wow, what a fucking coward.
He didn't want to think about it, but.
Well, that's what it is. There is definitely, and it's taken me so much effort to get to a point where your story does not make me angry or defensive or fearful. I'm starting to get to the point now, thankfully, where I'm curious, where I'm hopeful, because before it was, oh no, my worldview is crashing down, and there's a fear. I think it's a fear of judgment. There's a fear of humiliation as an atheist. Like, if you're wrong, you've just gone around telling everybody, hey, you believe in fairy tales. And, then Matthew comes up and says, hey, overnight I was cured of a methamphetamine addiction that spanned 25 years. And that really rocks your world. But kind of moving back to what you were saying about how, everybody has their own answer, and so on. David's response to that would be the idea that all these other people have different opinions. He would say that the magisterium is what separates all these sects of Christianity from the Catholic Church, which again doesn't help because it's just another guy saying we've got it,
right?
But we have this institution that's preserved sacred scripture and sacred tradition, and the tradition would be, the strict interpretation of that scripture. But again, I agree with you, that doesn't help you because that's just another group of people saying we've got it. And then you have the Lutherans who come along and say, well, you're wrong and here's why. So, but I'm still interested in your, I don't know if you call it healing, maybe that'd be a good word for it.
Sure.
So let's say that this is not an accident of biology. It's not an accident of psychology. It's some other inexplicable occurrence. Okay. Let's take Christianity off the table. What else do you think it could be? I'm totally open to supernatural. I'm just trying to brainstorm and take us out of the religious realm.
Of what could account for it other than it had something to do with Christianity? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, because
or non-spiritual, like a immaterial cause.
Well, no, not necessarily material. My point is like, so if somebody sees a UFO, right? By definition, It's unidentified. Yet everyone immediately says, "Oh, there's aliens. They came from here. They do this. They look like this. This is what they're, why they're here on Earth."
Okay.
But it's kind of like, well, how do you know all that? All you did is you saw the UFO. So in this situation, I look at this, it's like we have this extraordinary, inexplicable event. But by definition, it's inexplicable. And the only really tangible thing that we have is we prayed to this particular God and this crazy thing happened. Now, are we able to prove it's because of that God? No. All we have is the proof that this thing happened. So I guess what I'm trying to do is like, if we take Christianity off the table, where does your mind go in terms of other possible explanations, whether it's supernatural or natural?
Well, let's see. I don't know. I would have to just, I don't know. I really have no idea because I know that I was trying and how I would have liked to be different in a way. And I tried other things too, and nothing seemed to work. It just seems to be like it was my nature. I like in the biblical explanation of your sin nature and how you're born with this propensity to do these things and all this stuff. It just seems like it wraps it up so well. Any other explanation, like for why that would have happened to me? I mean, I really have no idea other than, like you said, it was just some psychological trip that I was on. And like they say that correlation and causation are two different things. Just because there's a correlation, I prayed to a Christian God, and then this thing happened, that doesn't mean that was the actual cause of it, right?
Right. That's kind of basically what I'm getting at. Yeah. Is we have this event.
Yeah. Yeah. So the only other thing I don't know I could think of is just that it was just some delusion of mine that maybe, and I'm just coming up with stuff. I can't think of a satisfying answer, but I think that, it's possible that deep inside this whole time I've just wanted to change so bad, and I don't know, just made it. And
there was your out
manifest. Yeah, made it manifest somehow in some some deal. But I mean, even that, really examining it and going over the events that were surrounding it and just how I was and who I was, it's just, I have no idea. It would have to be something really weird, deep, psychological, trippy thing that I'm not even aware of.
Well, the reason why I think I'm still kind of massaging this is because I don't understand how somebody can automatically know all of the peripheral details from the one instance. So, for example, if someone's like, I had cancer, I prayed to Allah, cancer is gone. Therefore, all of Islam is true, and we should beat our wives with this length of rod. You know, it's like they
not thicker than your index finger.
Exactly. So
no thicker than that. It's all good. Yeah, like you have to buy the whole cow just for that one thing.
Exactly. They yoke the entirety of this one religion to this mystical experience they have. So that's really kind of what I'm trying to figure out with you. Is it's like, what can we glean from this besides, holy shit, you were a meth addict and then you weren't, and that pivotal moment was under extraordinary circumstances. Like, what can we take that's actionable? Because if there is sufficient information there, then we should be able to go off into the world and say, because of this experience, I now know X, Y, and Z about reality, and I can take action on it. But it's almost like, all right, well, the only thing that we can really do is, I guess, Jesus, because we were praying to Jesus, but then shouldn't you be what were they, Presbyterian as opposed to Catholic?
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. Oh, no, and these guys were, evangelicals, right? Yeah, so where does that come in? Because now, like, theologically, I disagree with those guys so much.
Then you're back at square one again.
But yet they had the Holy Spirit power, and that's just that, and that's a trippy thing, too, because maybe we don't have to buy the whole thing. And maybe all of the theological constructs that we've come up with to try and connect the dots are just man's invention. But the spirit of it is real.
Well, that's where I'm wondering is like, maybe we are, the idea of religion is just the various interpretations of something that is very truly beyond our scope of understanding. But when, Farmer Dan invokes Jesus and the men who flew planes in the World Trade Center invoke Allah, they are talking about the same thing, but it's us who are screwing it up,
Yeah. Like the three blind men and the elephant. You've heard that, right?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Like there is an elephant there for sure.
I've seen that. Yeah. And all of them are describing in reality what they are experiencing, but they can't see the whole thing. They can only describe their little part of it that's interacted with them, that they've had a brush with. Like the tail is whatever. It's a big whip. Oh no, it's a big fan.
So then here's what bothers me
I do feel like that too sometimes.
Is when the person who's feeling one part of the elephant tells the person who's feeling the other part of the elephant, you're going to burn in hell because you don't agree.
You idiot. Yeah.
That's where it's like, then it becomes abuse, because then you have kids, like you and I were kids and we were told this message and we believed it.
Better be good, boy.
Yeah. And now that we're examining the other parts of the elephant, or questioning whether it's an elephant at all, then we still have like this record playing in the back of our head that says, you will suffer for all of eternity for doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? And I'm going to be honest with you here too. When I'm explaining the faith to my kids who are little kids, I feel sometimes like I'm giving them some sort of bedtime story. Like I feel like I'm telling them a tale so that they feel better about the bumps in the night and people that die. Like it would be the perfect thing to tell them if I was just trying to make up something to pacify them. Do you know what I mean? And so then I wonder, I'm like, is that all that we're doing? It's just more sophisticated form as we grow up and we have all of these different systems to know, where did grandma go when she died? And I'm going to die. What's going to happen? Oh no, it's okay.
Right.
We're all going to be together in the end. It's like, oh, that's a comforting thought, but it's like, yikes. And then the hell thing, keep in line.
Exactly.
But you know what, bro? But that is strawman in Christianity, because is it the good people that go to heaven and the bad people that go to hell? Nope. You know what? It's pieces of crap like me. I get to go to heaven. Why me? Why would God deliver me, bro? I was a thief, a liar, sexually immoral in every way, pretty much, and still even now I'm proud. I'm not a good husband and father. I mean, I don't love people like Jesus said. If you're my disciple, you're going to love people that are going to know you by your love. I'm like, do I really love people? I'm a judgmental. I'm not good. I'm not a good guy. There are atheists who are better people than me. Mm-hmm. So that's not how it works. Good guys don't go to heaven. Bad guys go to hell. It's like, if you will humble yourself, and that's what all this is, Nick, and this is what I really think it is, with Christianity anyways, is God, just think he's like picking a team for something later. Or say you're like a CEO of a company and you want to know that you can trust your employees. So you put them in a simulation, and they don't know that it's a simulation and that you're watching them. And so we get all of these doubtful things that we have to wrestle with. And he's looking for a certain character or person, a certain type of thing in us. So he puts us in this blind experiment type of thing. And it's the humble. It says that he gives grace to the humble. And all of these people that we listen to are these big, giant intellects, these really smart guys, and they come up with these great plausible arguments, and they are plausible, and all of our doubts are real, and they're founded. But God's looking for that humble person that's going to say, I'm going to trust in you regardless of what it looks like.
Yeah, man. I think that's...
To my intellect. And that's what I wanted to share with you, too. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, and I don't want to get all too Christian-y on you, but when I was listening to your podcast, this is what came to my mind. And I'm skeptical like you. I'm skeptical now of anyone who says, "Oh, the Holy Spirit's revealing this to me." It's like bullshit, really, most of the time. Right. I don't believe that. I don't. But this is what came to mind, like Christianity, if we really want to find the truth of Christianity, we're going about it the wrong way, because within the pages of the Bible that we're supposed to look to, it says something like this. This is the Bible verse. If you don't mind, can I share it with you?
Oh, please, man.
Yeah, it says, "Consider your calling, brothers. Not many of you were wise according to worldly standards. Not many were powerful. Not many were of noble birth. But God chose what is foolish in the world to shame the wise. God chose what is weak in the world to shame the strong. God chose what is low and despised in the world, even things that are not, to bring to nothing the things that are, so that no human being may boast in the presence of God." It's like God chose the foolish, drug addict, meth head, foolish idiot to confound the wise. And with this simple, stupid, anecdotal thing that I have, I'm not a philosopher. You guys blow me away with your philosophy. I love it. I love hearing it. But like you said, how you struggle just to hold on when you're listening to like certain guys go back and forth on philosophy. That's how I feel listening to like you and David. I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys are like towering intellects over me. I'm just a simple guy. And then another verse says, "Where is the one who is wise? Where is the scribe? Where is the debater of this age? Has God not made foolish the wisdom of the world? For since in the wisdom of God, the world did not know God through wisdom." See, it says the world did not know God through wisdom. It pleased God through the folly of what we preach to save those who believe. So like if we're trying to do this big intellectual thing, we're just it's masturbation, dude. Yeah. We're not going to find them that way. It says God chose, and God can choose whatever the hell God wants to do in any way that he wants, because he's, like I said, he's looking to build a certain character in people, and to a certain character, like it says, like, if you are faithful in small things, I'm going to reward you with great things later. That's what Jesus was saying in his parables to some guys. So if you're trustful, he said, if I can trust you in this very little bit, I'm going to trust you with something huge. I'm going to give you 10 cities and whatever to come. And I think that's all figurative of saying in this next life, this is just a proving ground simulation. And I think a lot of the science is coming up to this. They think that this reality, have you studied reality, how they say that there's holographic nature to it? It seems like a projection. The theoretical physics, they're like, is this even really here? Quantum
Right.
Science, it's like, is reality really real? No, it kind of isn't. And that would make sense if this is just a simulator. We're in an arena. We're in a fishbowl being watched, being put in all these weird situations, and you're hearing this right now, and I'm hearing you, and like it's all a setup. It feels like it. Because when you were a child and you thought that at any moment the walls were going to roll up and the backdrop was going to fall and a bunch of people were going to jump out and be like, gotcha. You felt like that, right?
Yeah.
I just was talking about that with a buddy at work today. I'm like, you felt that, right? We all, almost everyone I talked to, we all felt that when we were small children. You know why? Because that is how it is, man. How I felt like I was in the Truman Show before I even knew what the Truman Show was, or the Matrix or something like that. Like I couldn't put those things I couldn't articulate it, but I felt that way as a child, like intuitively, like this isn't real. Something's fishy here. Because it is. What if it is? I mean, and that's the thing. It's like, Nick, you just know, like, is God there? And that's what a pastor just told me, when I was telling him all these doubts, all these horrible doubts in the Bible and all this stuff. It's just like, man, shut up. You know, right? In your heart, you know. And I'm just like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I'm fighting it. It's like, I don't want to, but I'm like, but this, but that, but this. And all those buts are valid, dude. They are, but you still just have to, at the end of the day, God chose the foolish things to confound the wise. And then this proverb,
such a messed up, like,
backwards.
It's so backward, like,
you'd have to trust. And Jesus is like, with a childlike faith, right? You have to become as one of these children, or you cannot see the kingdom of God. Children believe in Santa Claus. If I told my son, my 5-year-old, I can jump over the moon, and I said it with conviction, he would believe me after a while. You know what I mean?
But, that's a problem. And
it's ridiculous.
Because
it is a problem.
Because Santa's not there, right? So, like,
yes, he's not. So, but in that same way, that childlike faith is the only way. It's the only way that you can see his kingdom. And for us intellectually proud people that want answers and want everything to line up the way that we want to line up, that's a stumbling block. And that's why he says, not many of you were wise. And one more little Bible thing, and I'll quit. But it says, trust in the Lord with all of your heart, which is heart means mind. Do not lean on your own understanding. In all of your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your path. Be not wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord. Turn away from evil. It will be healing to your flesh and refreshment to your bones. So, like, the Bible's criteria for this is like, don't trust your intellect, Nick. Don't trust your own heart. It'll lead you astray. And all of these guys and their brilliant arguments, man, it's like...
Doesn't that scare the shit out of you?
Yeah.
Doesn't that,
and it should. It's like, I'm just going to give it. Oh, okay.
That's what it is, though. It's like, so...
You have to, though.
Chris
That's
Hitchens
the only way.
had such a great quote that he said, if you just give in, if you just let go of your critical faculties, you will experience eternal bliss. And that to me is so scary. Like, what am I gaining?
Just drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like, man.
Drink the Kool-Aid, Nick. Everything's going to be okay on the other side. I know it. But that's how it is. I mean, that's the only way in, dude. I mean, guys like C.S. Lewis and stuff, I guess C.S. Lewis came to faith through philosophical arguments. And he was a great intellect. I don't know if you've read a lot of his apologetic works, but if you haven't, read Mere Christianity. He makes a good case.
Yeah, I'm getting around to it.
Intellectually, I mean, he's if you want intellectual stuff, he's great and very entertaining at the same time. But that's a rarity. Usually, it's through some kind of a tragedy or something. God gets hold of your heart or something. Something like what happened to me happened. It's like, I don't know. I can't explain it. I don't know. So
damn, dude.
So that's my.
You're shaking my snow globe. What the hell? I was supposed to get you on here. We both were going to be like, man, we can't know anything. Shit's really tough. But you came on here and now I'm all rattled.
Good, man. No, I'm rattled all the time, dude.
Nah, if you're not rattled at least like once a week, you're not doing it right.
No, and because all of that doubtful stuff, oh my gosh, I could talk to you about it. I totally get it. And like prayer, like my wife is going through some horrible stuff right now, okay? Like crippling depression, all of this stuff. All of these people are praying for her, like, oh, we're praying, oh, we're praying, oh, we're praying, oh, we're praying. And it's just like, why isn't anything happening? And I wanted to forward you something I sent to David. I'm like, well, if and the answer you get is God either says yes, no, or later, or something. So that's the same as saying absolutely nothing. That's the same as flipping a coin. It is. It's the same thing, right? Like, oh, you just weren't praying according to his will, or the time wasn't right. It's just like, okay, so then why do it at all?
Right.
It's the same as if it wasn't true, like, and I'm honestly like, if it was fake, you'd get the same, you'd have the same odds of getting your prayer answered in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure. So then the question becomes, with all this, like, what is the purpose of making an effort? And I think,
why even do it at all?
Well, and I think the answer is it's this or annihilation. Right? It's this or a meaningless, an utterly meaningless existence followed by nothingness.
Yeah, dude. But you know what? And Nick, I've been feeling condemned again. Like, I just know I'm not living up to the really hard things in Scripture that Christ says, if you're my disciple, you're going to put me before your wife, your even life itself. And I realized, dude, I'm not living that way. So I feel condemned still. And you hear all these messages of hope. But if you really look at those claims, they're really hard claims.
Yeah. And it seems kind of fucked up. But then again,
it is.
Well, because I remember when I wrote a book, it's on my website, and I'm probably going to eventually have to take it down because this whole journey that I'm doing, it's just like, I don't know that I could stand by anything that I've written in the past, but the book is called The Agadah, which is... I
want it. Yeah, I've heard you talk about it. Tell me, dude, I want it, though.
I mean, it's free. It's right there on there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but the Agadah is the Hebrew word for the binding of Isaac, which takes place in Exodus, where Abraham takes Isaac up the mountain because God asks you to please kill your son for me. And when I finally understood that verse, it scarred me so deeply, or at least I used it as like this sort of virtue signaling, like, how could he type thing, like.
But how could a good God command?
Seriously, though, it's like.
But that's a good question, bro.
It's a very good question. So when God says, like, put me before your wife, put me before your kids, is that that sounds very jealous and capricious. Is that the same thing as saying neglect your wife, neglect your kids? Like, I love my family more than I love God. Now, granted, I don't believe in God, but. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and I said, do you love God more than you love your parents? And this guy's a Catholic. And he said, yeah, I do. And I just could not wrap my mind around that, to like, because to me, it seems like a fear tactic. To me, it seems like, love me more than your family or I'll send you to hell. That's not love to me, But it's an impossible standard. I can't do that because you know what? And this is another thing I want to tell you about the doubt that you agree with. It's like they say that, we can have this personal relationship with God, and I still haven't had. I don't feel Same.
like that. I feel like I know. I feel like I know a bunch of facts. Yeah, I know a bunch of facts about God. I can answer all the Sunday school questions. I could do all that, but do I know Him like I know my wife?
No, dude. I've heard,
and that's what I'm saying. When you go to all of these different places. You're going to go to the different churches and all that stuff. Will you ask him something for me? Ask him, say, okay, so do you know God? Do you know him personally? Can you demonstrate that? Where is he? Show him to me.
Yeah.
And if I have to use my imagination, if you say, oh yeah, well, I know him. He's like, imagine this, imagine that. I don't want an imaginary stuff. I want to know him. If he's a person, I want to know him. I want to have him. Like they say, and all these people, I love Jesus. I have a personal relationship with them. I'm like, do you really? Or
right? It just sounds.
Is it deficient in me or what?
It sounds like just like a catchphrase that they say, where it's like, if you believe in God, you have to say I have a relationship with Jesus. I was just at an event the other day, and it was a couple of weeks ago, and this guy comes up to me, and he goes, "Do you know Jesus?" And it was like totally out of the blue, so it was pretty crazy that like he asked me this. And come to find out, this guy, he's 16 years old. He tries to do a lot of street evangelization and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's getting a little bit loud in the background there.
Oh, hey guys, can you shut the door, please? Sorry about that.
No worries.
Sorry, Nadi, will you please shut the door and quiet down a little bit? Sorry about that, buddy.
No worries.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, so I'm at this event. Turns out this guy, he does some street evangelization. He's 16 years old. His name's Carver, and he does this to everybody. Like, he asks everybody, "Do you believe in Jesus?" And we actually became pretty good friends afterward. He's a nice guy, and he said something to the effect of, "Do you have a relationship with Jesus Christ?" And I said, "I have a relationship with my dad. I have a relationship with my sister. But when you say the words relationship with Jesus Christ, it could not mean less to me."
Yeah.
It just, you're speaking a different language. I was like, what does that mean? And he couldn't give me a good answer, but I've yet to hear actually a good answer from somebody.
Me too.
And it's like,
or show me, like, how do I get that?
Dude,
how do I obtain it? And they say, "Oh, read your Bible and pray." I've been doing it for 10 years. And I cannot honestly tell you that I have that. And you know,
and this is going to sound crass, and I'll probably eat my words later on, but it sounds to me like when somebody has an imaginary friend where they have put so much effort, as a little kid, into creating this visage of an individual, right? They have this color hair, they like this type of food, and oh, my imaginary friend doesn't like spinach, so don't feed him spinach, and like all these different things. It's like they are just that which you need them to be, but they're a total fabrication of you. And so when somebody says, "I have a relationship with Jesus," and they can't articulate how it got there or how you can share in it or anything like that, it just comes down to these like ephemeral words of like, you just have to have faith, or just some empty catchphrase. It's the most infuriating thing in the world.
It's infuriating for me too, because I'm trying to get this relationship, and I'm talking to fellow Christian people who are ignorant, because a lot of Christians are very ignorant of what the Bible actually says. And they read it and they only see little parts, like we were talking about the cognitive bias, confirmation bias, like, and it's like, I know the word well enough to where they'll be telling me stuff about God based on a totally retarded interpretation of a biblical passage. And it's like, and no, but they got the Holy Spirit. God talks to me. I'm hearing from him every day. Right. And I'm praying. And it's just like, it hurts my heart, because I'm just like,
it does.
You're making this up in your own mind. And am I doing the same thing?
And according to that Bible, man, they're the ones that are saved because they have faith like children. And that's fucked up to me. It's like why are they the ones that via...
Or I don't know. Yeah, I don't know either, dude. It bugs me too. And then they're doing all this other stuff. It's just so not biblical. And I'm just like, what? Or I just think they're deluding themselves, obviously, and it's so annoying to me. And then hear pastors preach on this stuff that's just total... It's just bullshit. And everyone's amening. Amen. Yeah, at the beginning of the service, you have 100 people in that place all praying, "Holy Spirit, please reveal your will to us, God's will through the word," and all this stuff. And they're amening this crap that this guy is just making up. And it's like, you guys don't notice. I want to get up in the middle of it. And she's like, "Don't you notice this guy just made that shit up?"
Yeah, like right then.
Like they're adding to it. Like, yeah, or even there. And I go to these churches, like my wife goes, where they're like, "Oh, we read every passage of the Bible. We go cover to cover, back and forth, and read verse by verse." And like, as he's reading it, he's slipping words in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "You didn't just see that?" Like my wife, "You didn't just see... Did you see? He just added a word in there that changed the whole meaning of the whole passage to fit his theological construct." You don't see that? It's brainwashed, dude.
It really
and
is.
They're, amen. And I'm just like, fuck, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Like, it just seems like brainwashed, like idiots. I'm not trying to be a jerk.
No, but
I'm using crass language, but I'm just being real, dude. It's driving me nuts.
No, absolutely.
And I'm just like, I've been that guy. I remember 4 years ago, I was that guy amening that stuff, not knowing the difference. I was that guy,
and I've been that guy too. Like I've been there, and
so I'm just like, oh gosh,
that's where it's tough to say.
That's what's scaring me the most. That's the most doubtful thing, because I'm like, I remember being that guy and being totally blind, and now I'm showing, like I said, these verses and showing to my wife and people, and they just don't see what's right in front of their face. Mm-hmm. Like one of the taglines of the Reformation is by faith alone.
Yep, sola fide.
Faith alone. So it's not by works, it's by faith, mm-hmm. right? And then, so tell me this. So you're an atheist guy. Well, for now, I think, yeah, for now, bro.
It's crumbling.
But man. tell me what this. And I'm just venting because this pisses me off. And I want you as an objective party and whoever's listening to this that says that one of the 5 solas of Reformation is you're not justified by what? You're justified by faith alone. Mm-hmm. And there's only one passage in the entire Bible that has the words faith alone. And I'm going to share it with you. It says, it's James 2:24. It says, you see that a person is justified by works and not by faith alone. Hey. Bro, and I'll show that to my wife and she doesn't see it.
Right.
Does it not say not by faith alone? And that's the whole banner of your movement is fucking fit. What the
Right.
And I try and talk to these guys and I'm like, do you think that's a problem with your theology that the only time those words are ever in the whole entire Bible, it's negating what you're saying? It's like, dude, I don't understand
and you
it.
You have 50,000 teams disagreeing with each other. And someone like you or I are caught in the middle of it because it's like, I just want a straight answer. I want
the truth, man. Please just give me the truth. That's it. A straight answer. And I can't get it, dude.
And everyone's saying I've got it. And so it's like,
yes.
And I told you this before we were recording, but I said at the top of the mountain, it is separated by the people who were born there and the people who climbed it. If you and I end up at the top of the mountain of truth and we figured it out and we know we figured it out and we know that we figured it out and we're resolute in whatever the belief is. Let's say it's Mormonism. Spoiler alert, it's not, but let's say it is.
Please don't be that.
And we get to the top, and there's a bunch of Mormons there, right? That have been born there, and their family, their parents are there, and their parents are there, and so on. We cannot have community with them. And the reason we can't have community with them is because there will always be a difference between somebody like yourself and myself who have been to hell and back, clawing our way up that mountain. And if we agree, because we see this every day, you and I see this every day, if you and I walk up to a Christian, you and I know more about the belief that they say that they believe than they do.
Yeah.
So how are we supposed to have community with somebody when they happened upon the answer, but they didn't show their work, They know it's 42 and they don't know what math is.
Yeah, they don't know how to get there. They didn't do yep.
And I think that's
I totally feel it.
That's my and it probably sounds arrogant as hell for what I just said, but like that's, I think, a big part of my resistance, where it's like whenever I hear somebody say like, oh, you'll come around, there could not be a more infuriating thing to tell somebody whose knuckles are bleeding, whose knees are skinned, who's been clawing their way over the broken glass of epistemology, struggling to find an answer, only for somebody who's never moved from their couch say, oh, you'll get there.
You'll get there, pal. It's okay.
Oh my God. It just,
it's like you're stuck in that falling dream and you're just falling in the bottomless pit.
That's all it is.
Yeah. And they're just like, oh yeah, they spend, I feel you. I don't know, man.
What the hell do we do, Matthew?
I don't know, brother. But hey, maybe and I know this might sound corny, but I'm saying maybe God's going to give us conviction and maybe he doesn't like it either. Maybe he's going to say, why don't you guys go tell him what it's really like or something, or be okay with not knowing.
Here's the thing, dude, he's got 2 really good warriors that he's sleeping on. He's sleeping on 2 ace weapons in the hole, And that's, one thing that really scares me, though, is I am a magic pill seeker. I am a cult follower by heart. I have tried every flavor of cult that you can imagine besides veganism and Islam. And I can be convinced of anything no matter what. So I'm so scared that if I do become a Christian, it's just going to be taken away in 6 months.
Oh, yeah. If you're argued into it, you can be argued out. And see, that's another thing, I think, Nick, what grounds me in it, and the only reason I'm in it is because I have that kind of an anecdotal, experiential thing, that I can kind of hold on to or something. And I think that something like that might be what's going to help you too. You know, I don't know. Because if you can be talked into it, you can be talked out.
And that's what I'm trying to do with this film is get that road to Damascus. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I know I'm not trying to be like the guy you just said, oh, you'll come around. I really, truly believe it's going to happen for you. Ever since the first time I heard your first interview on David's show, I was just like, dude, I'm not worried about you at all, man.
Well,
I really think that I'm worried about myself, but I don't know. But just even talking to you, I'm encouraged just even by talking to you, man. My faith has been encouraged from this conversation, which is weird.
Yeah, that is screwed up. How?
I don't. It's just because it's bringing back to mind that reality that I was forgetting of where I was at ground zero. Because you pick up the kids, you go to work, you forget all this stuff, and all these doubts creep in. And I still am a debate junkie. I'm listening to the atheist sermons now. You know, that's all they're doing is preaching their sermons, and I listen to them, and they have a lot of good questions that I still haven't had any good answers to. So it's not like the issues. And the apologists always want to skirt around it. I don't want anyone to skirt around it. I need someone to take it head on. And I'll take it head on. Any question you have for me, I'll go head on. I'm not an expert or anything, but I mean, I'll be honest at least. Like I'll tell you, yeah, it says some pretty bad stuff about slavery and all that stuff. Yeah, that's in the Bible. I've said it. I've seen it. I've read it. I've looked up the original languages. I know all that stuff. And all these guys want to hem-haw around all these really hard, kind of gross things and all these other things. No, it's there. And if I'm going to accept this thing, then I have to buy all of that. So that's an issue.
Right.
I can't make something up to make it soft or go down easier, because then I'm just lying to myself, and I don't want to have to do that. So
yeah,
you can help me with that type of stuff.
Yeah, well, we definitely have to help each other, because I see the temptation as I'm starting to explore more, like as my atheist walls are being broken down, I see the temptation to become less intellectually rigorous, because it's comfortable to have a cohesive worldview, right? It's comfortable to be able to say, oh, this all fits together perfectly, it's seamless, and then to just ignore the areas that are just blatantly missing reality. Like they're not even close.
You want to be sure of yourself. But this guy, G.K. Chesterton, a Catholic guy, you probably heard of G.K. Chesterton. He says, if you want to be sure of yourself, he said the people who are the most sure of themselves are the people in the mental institutions.
Oh, shit.
That guy is so sure of himself that he is the Queen of England. You cannot convince him. Every argument you have, he has a counter argument of why he is the Queen of England. He's the most sure of himself of anyone, or a singer who can't sing.
Yeah,
on American Idol.
You're dead accurate.
They're sure of themselves. You don't want to be sure of yourself like that, dude. You want to have that skeptical mind, or else when you're sure of yourself and all of your stuff fits together, that's when you can be assured that you're probably the furthest away from the real truth.
That's where I'm a little bit worried about David, because it's
just too nice, huh?
Yeah, well, no, that's the problem. He's just too kind. He's just too genuine. No, but like I kind of, when I first started listening to him, it wasn't as apparent, but now I start to see like he's bought into the cult side of Catholicism, not the religion side, the cult side. And there's, I think, a distinction, and it is a little bit worrisome where, man, if he's wrong by one atom, that's a big problem, because
his whole house of cards comes down.
Yeah. And so it's like he's taking the bow and arrow shot from 3 miles away versus the general Catholic religious person who's like, yeah, there's a God and the Eucharist and stuff. That's a lot safer.
Yeah. He's going for it hard. And he even says it too. It makes me cringe when he's like, yeah, if they found out one thing that they said was wrong, he's like, I'm abandoning Christianity altogether. I'm like, do you really think that they didn't get one thing wrong?
Yeah.
All these guys coming up, I'm just like, oh, man. Yeah. It scares me for him. But the thing so I was just about to fall off the edge. And then I was just looking up Aaron Raw debates, because I kind of love the guy, even though he makes some bad arguments sometimes. For sure. A lot of the times. But he's fun to listen to. And he has some really great points, too. Like, really, really great points. But anyways, and then I found his debate with David, and then just the confidence that David had. I was like, I need that. I want that. I have to talk to this guy and talk to him about that. I'm like, but why the hell is he a Catholic though?
Yeah.
I'm like, a Catholic? Why? I'm like, he seems to know God and everything. I'm like, why freaking Catholicism? That's like the worst thing. I'm like, I gotta talk to this guy. And then I talked to him, and he pretty much did. In that it's so attractive, that peace, and that the answers are here, and we have history, and there are good arguments. There are good arguments that the Catholic Church is the true church, and that if even with all of its problems, all warts and everything, I mean, there is some good. I mean, it could be legit, and I'm still looking into it. I'm still not 100%, but I'm looking into orthodoxy as well. But like you said, it could just be another bunch of people making these claims. But I want that. It's like Catholicism is my last ditch effort of Christianity, right. And it's the last place I ever wanted to go. But that actually makes it more convincing to me too, because Christianity in general was the last place I wanted to go, and then I found truth and peace and all of that in that. So maybe it is, the last place I would look would be the Catholic Church, to tell you the truth. Like, seriously, I mean, I've hated the Catholic Church for my whole Protestant life. I mean, sure. It's like they're the whore of Babylon and all that, and the pedophile priest, and like, oh yeah, my parents were Catholic, so I'd always be at every dinner like trying to convert them, like just talking crap about the Pope and all that stuff. Oh, and that's being an annoying little asshole.
Dude, you're narrating like the last few years of my life.
Really? Yeah, dude, we're brothers, man.
That's what it is. But there is
I think so.
There is a romantic aspect of Catholicism that I think David has seen and that he's fallen in love with that I desire.
I want it.
I do too.
I want it too.
And I think,
but there's some serious things. But it's the thing too. Like, we just have to give in. I was like, I don't know. I don't want to give in. I'm scared to like pray to Mary. I'm scared to do any of that stuff. I still don't want to do that. But
I don't know, man.
I can't. I mean, I'm investigating all these other claims and all these other deals, and it's just like I know that there's truth in Christ. I know that, man. But
I don't even know what that sentence means.
All this stuff surrounding it. Just when I'm reading that stuff and reading some of the stuff Jesus said, it's just like it cuts to the core of me, And it's not like I wanted to. And like you said, I would actually be fine now with like annihilationism. Like, sometimes I just want to die and it just be over with. Mm-hmm. I don't want to have to worry about all this cosmic shit. Like, oh my gosh, have I been loving well enough? Have I been doing this? And like this scrutiny, the scrupulosity, all of this stuff. And to be an atheist, it would almost feel good just to give up and just like, fuck it, none of this even matters. Who cares? I'm just gonna die. And that's it.
I mean, I've been an atheist for years, and I've never had that peace.
I'm just, I mean, when I was in that darkness phase, it's like I had to take, a lot of substances to be okay with just being alive.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean? You have to numb out.
You know what I mean?
Because the trauma of existence, when you're in a universe that doesn't mean anything, but you're still there and you're still awake and there's no filter on that cigarette, like you've got to find a way to numb out for sure.
Yep. And there's nothing. And if that is the case, numb it up. Who cares? I'd go for it. It does not matter. I would be like, eat and drink for tomorrow we die. Who cares? All lights over. I just want to sleep and go away forever. Because sometimes I don't really want to live forever. I'm just tired, and I'm tired of stuff. And I'm just like, dude, I just want to fall asleep and never get up and just lights out. I think that'd be nice. But yeah. I mean, I hear that sentiment. You know what I mean? Just because I'm so worried, I have to worry about all this stuff all the time. Like, I'm going to hell. I'm going to hell. Am I living for Christ? Am I this and that? And it's just sometimes it's like
it's not straightforward enough.
Just to not. It's too nebulous. Too.
That's the problem. Like, if Christianity,
you said, we can't get a clear answer. It's too ambiguous.
Yeah. If Catholicism were more straightforward, if it were more concrete, I think it would be incredible. It would be so much more peace-inducing as opposed to anxiety-inducing, right?
Yeah, but there's a lot of anxiety with it.
But because it's so, like you said, it's so nebulous, you can't hang your hat on it. It's like, I would rather have the definity of annihilation where I don't have to worry because there is no I. Yep,
it's just bye. but then what if we wake up in that thing, dude? Like, you experienced it and I've experienced it. Just think of like an accordion. like when you pull an accordion apart, but you put the two ends horizontal, and it makes that like rainbow of accordion. And then picture that as the when you put two mirrors together and you see those infinite reflections, and you're in the middle of that bouquet and you're dissected into all of those pieces and you're trapped right there.
I can't. I don't want to do that. I can't do that for eternity.
That's where I've been. I've seen that for a few seconds. It seemed like when you guys are talking about being in that spot where you think it's hell, pretty much.
That's what it is.
That's what I've been right there. And when you guys are talking about that, I remembered that and felt that for a second. And dude, I don't know.
Whatever it takes to avoid that, I will do.
And I think it's real, dude. I'm telling you.
Well, it's real because I've been there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and our minds are just creating this out of nothing. I don't know. I guess it's possible. Anything's possible. Because, and isn't it a trip to like psilocybin, all these things that make LSD? There's LSD in your brain already. It's a chemical. DMT. When you take LSD, it's just causing your brain to release something that's already there for you to experience.
Yeah,
all that
why?
stuff.
Why is that there? It's crazy.
What the fuck is the evolutionary point of that? You can come up with whatever you want. I don't know, dude. Some of it, we just need to take heed, man. I don't know. But I should probably cut it loose here. I could talk to you forever, man. I love this. This is great, but I should probably go attend to the family, and I really hope this worked out. I don't know.
No, this will not be the last conversation, and I'm really grateful for you coming on here, man.